Yo, what's up? What's up? Welcome back to another Proactive Pragmatism. On this Proactive Pragmatism, I'd like to continue on with our series Millennials Are. This next millennial barely made the cut. He's kind of old, man. But I'd like to bring to you guys the father, the soldier, and my personal motivator, the Raul Mancera. Hold on, let me do that again. I fucked that up. All right, so it's still recording. Hold on. There we go. Yo, what's up? What's up? Welcome back to another episode of Proactive Pragmatism. In this Proactive Pragmatism, we continue on with our series Millennials Are. This next millennial barely made the cut, but I'd like to introduce to you a very, very close friend of mine, a father, a soldier, a motivator, and California native, the Raul Mancera. Yo, Cap, what's up, man? How you doing, bro?
Hey, Tommy. Hey, how's things going, man?
They're going all right, man. Don't act fake. Don't play on this podcast, like, you know what I'm saying, like you, Mr. Proper.
Hey, how are you today?
You a commander now. You know what I'm saying, big dog. You feel me?
Well, you called me old in the introduction. I'll take it. Barely made the cut. That's like being picked like second to last on the kickball team.
I mean, you used to it. I mean,
you know, that's true. That's true. Then you show them what you really got, and then they're like,
but
whoa.
It builds character. I was picked last too. I was just the skinny kid with the big nose. It's like,
yeah.
Is he athletic? We don't know.
I was definitely the skinny short kid, so I understand.
Bro, how is command treating you?
You know, it, as they say, it was the best of times and it was the worst of times. Ooh. You know, stuff like that. You get an opportunity to learn. And what you don't really see much is you have an opportunity to learn from people that are in different positions. And so, like, you learn from just the youngest soldier out there who, you know, just has different life experiences. And then from him to, you know, your boss and your boss's boss. So it puts together a smorgasbord of people and experiences. And it's taught me a lot. It's humbled me a lot, too.
That's beautiful. Because I just did a podcast with Pascal, and he was talking about how another captain that I mixed my schools up. He didn't even go to we go all the way back to like a camp, right? Like we went way back to like military camp. We was at ROTC.
2013 LDAC, Fort Lewis, Washington.
Don't even say that date. Because it makes me feel old. I'm not that old, bro. I'm a young, thriving young man.
I'm old. Gray hair.
I'm getting ready to do the big chop here in a little bit. My hair is fading. So what are the major differences? Because as a platoon leader, you have similar circumstances. So are you saying that command like forces you to dig deeper down to the lowest soldier to figure it out? Because there's like this fold of, you know, leaders in between. How does that differ for you?
Well, I think for me as a commander and in trusting my own platoon leaders, with that trust that I've built with them and they've built in me, it allows me to go down and understand what those soldiers are really doing. It gives me more freedom, more flexibility throughout my day. And that is not only taught me like anything from, you know, families, extended families that are not co-located here, and the installation with us. And then like I have about 130 people that work, and then about another 30 DA civilians, and another 150 contractors. So, you know, having that type of trust within, you know, my company has really allowed me to get to really know people, because that's where the root of all your productivity comes from, is them. And so it's been phenomenal. And so, like you're asking about the difference between a platoon leader and a commander, what the biggest thing I would say is, from being a platoon leader and, you know, learning to do your job, that's how I felt. I felt like as a platoon leader, I was like, oh no, this is new. What am I really doing? How do I not get fired today?
Every day.
Yeah, every day. And you know, that was one of the first things I said to my first platoon sergeant. I walked up to him. I was like, "Hey, I'm Lieutenant Mancera. Just help me not get fired."
Oh.
And he's like, "I see you're green behind the ears. I'll take care of you, young Padawan." And I was like, "All right, cool, man." And so, you know, for the first 9 months I did platoon leader, it was just learning about what I was doing, you know, understanding how my platoon, they got to a point where they're ready to do their jobs. And then, you know, understanding property, that's a big thing as well. And then that mentorship aspect, understanding, you know, what that platoon really needs from a lieutenant and how it differentiates between the platoon sergeant and himself. I mean, there's a lot of vast differences, but the foundation of everything is just trust.
Okay. That's interesting, because I've always seen you as somebody who was the kind of the glue of holding things together. Like, there were so many times like where a young Captain Hamilton just wanted to quit. Like, I was like, this is ridiculous. It seems like I'm up against the fence. And you were there like, hey bro, we'll move like that. And then you come in with a joke or something like that. Like, so some of it's kind of corny, but you know what I'm saying? Like, how do you manage that part? Because what I've noticed as a platoon leader is there has to be distance, you know, and between you and the troops. And even in command, that's an even harder balance to find, because your leaders have to lead. So how did you go about still being the glue that is you, but at the same time maintaining that balance between platoon leadership? Because you don't always, it ain't like you get to pick, like, you know, you get the draft picks, you get number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4 off the board. How do you balance those different personalities?
Yeah, so yeah, that's a great question. So it's hard. I mean, it really is. And so, like, my most difficult thing is I have people that, so I don't really have platoons in my company. So I'm not your standard, you know, line company where it's X1, first platoon, second platoon, third platoon. So I got my headquarters, which does, you know, the administrative requirements to make, you know, the mission happen. But I got 3 big mission platoons. So one of the mission platoons does, you know, signals. The other one does like geospatial stuff. And then my last one does like analytical work. So as the manager of all the single sources for the intelligence community, for what we do, I have captains as my quote unquote platoon leaders. I don't have lieutenants. And so that's where it makes it even more difficult. But at the same time, you know, it's an opportunity to provide mentorship to those that might have had different experiences.
Wow. So mentoring your peers. So it sounds like you was doing the same thing over again like you did when we was cadets.
It was like watching young Tommy Hamilton come in and like, hey, I'm part of First Squad. And I'm there, the freaking 31-year-old, and we're all the same age. Well, I'm not. I'm 31. You guys are like 19, 20. Like, I'm going to be a lieutenant one day.
Oh, man. That's funny. That's outstanding. And that's the interesting part, is like a lot of people don't, when they look at the Army, they just see line units. And then even line units get even more complicated because you've got different specialties. Like when we were on deployment, I made captain, and it was weird. It was hard trying to find my balance because we also have a commander. And I'm like, I want to do everything underneath this commander's guidance. But at the same time, it's like, as a peer, you're like, bruh.
Yeah, now you're like,
doing?
come on, bro, don't be stupid. Here, let's put some common sense into this. Hey, man, let's separate. You know how cool you are, and
you know what I mean? Like,
we're friends. You know what I mean? What do you really need me to do?
You know what I'm saying? Like, and then support the decisions that I need to make on our behalf. Trust that I got it. And by the end, it was beautiful. But there were a lot of rough patches. Like even during my deployment, I had 3 different platoon sergeants.
Yeah.
And as a person that wants to take ownership of everything, right? Because before I went to deployment, you know, you go through the Jocko's books, you're like, let me extreme ownership, and you don't really understand it. You know, it's applied. And that was one of the hardest parts because you want to go in, but you realize you got to do the small things that those equal the big things. And that has to be rough. So I got a question. So most commanders have like this leadership philosophy. What kind of rah-rah, you know what I'm saying, did you bring to the table? What's your philosophy?
Well, I have several philosophies. My biggest philosophy is just, you know, one standard, one expectation. That's something I told my guys. So okay. I spent a lot of time, you know,
out there cooking.
You know, hey, you know, someone's got to light that fire, you know, and go keep that, you know, flame abreast. No, but, you know, and so I think I derived that because when I came in, there was a lot of uncertainty. Leadership was in chaos and shambles. There's many transitions, and the right people weren't in the right positions. Like you said, you don't get your draft pick. You get it and you fall into it. And so I came in like a mentality like I was going to run it like I was a commander that's capable of telling people to charge the hill. And, you know, I stirred the pot a lot, you know, didn't upset some, you know, field grades. Not really, they were field grade warrant officers, but, you know, at the end of the day, we all have a common understanding now. But, you know, I stirred the pot and was like, hey, I'm the captain now, you know? We had a good, you know, just set one standard, one expectation, but no, it was, it's been a good time, good experience.
That's beautiful that you said that because it's weird. So online, and I try to stay out of Facebook forums now, but like people come up with all these things about all these commander, he did this and he did that. And I'm like, and I'm sitting in the seat and I'm like, I don't know if that's the whole truth, you know? Yeah. Like it's way more complicated. It's like the same issues that people have in businesses and those things with harassment and all those stuff and people trying to find their way. It's the same way in the military. And it's like as leaders, we don't often get the opportunity to have enough grace to apply these decisions because up top is like, fix it.
Yeah. And so
fix it now.
Yeah, perfect example, Tommy. So I had a guy come in my office the other day and was like, oh, you guys don't care about me. You don't care about X, Y, and Z. You know, I said this and that. And he's like, I've lost trust in the leadership. And I was like, hold the fuck on. And I was like, ooh. And I was like, wait, did I say that? And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, oh, I brought something up a while back. No one cares about me. No one's come up and follow things on me. And I was like, listen, watch your mouth. I was like, you don't come in my office and tell me that I'm not doing my job. I was like, let's get a common understanding. And so, yeah, I get it. You know, that's people don't see what you have to face every day. They have a misconception of how you handle people's business. And yeah, it's tough balance.
It is. And it's weird because it's like they think we're just wandering around hoping that they fail. Like, oh, yes, today I'm just going to pick on this person today. And I'm like, that's never, ever crossed my mind. And a lot of times you don't even know. And I've had my missteps with commanders as well, because you assume that they know what's going on.
Yeah.
And if they haven't created mentorship between you and them, it magnifies even bigger, because it's like, I've seen negligence here, so I assume that they're not aware of the problem. Yeah. And then things start to sour. But I've noticed if we come close and have that conversation, like, I mean, and it takes, and that's the thing is like, people may see this and they're like, oh, that was kind of intense. And I'm like, we are in a profession where lives are at stake. So in order to cut through the clutter, we have to have realistic conversations about leadership. Like, hey, that's not it. What is it? And recently, I don't know if you read the book Ego, Authority, Failure, but it kind of opened my eyes to that approach. Because if me, big black guy with muscles, say that, they gonna go, man, look, I look at them wrong and they start telling, oh my God, he's so mean. And so my approach has to be different. Because and that's interesting. It alludes to different command styles. You know what I'm saying? Because you come off as a fun guy. You know what I mean? You very, chill, relaxed. I don't know if that's still you, but it seems like it's still you.
Always, hey man, you can't change it.
And so you kind of got to crack the whip. And for me, I've got to pull the whip back and show them that I'm human. And once I started doing that, things started changing. Even when we were cadets, once I started showing people that I was human and I wasn't just, I don't know, it's a weird perception. But like, I don't,
like a super soldier. I mean,
it's weird. Like, and I don't know if it's minorities understanding other minorities and like, hey, this dude's probably not a bad guy. He's just frustrated, nervous, just like everybody else.
Yeah, you gotta talk. You know what I mean?
And then when I put that aside and had the conversations with people, like, I'm not a bad guy. I'm motivated, but I'm motivated to win for you. Now things start to change. Things start to change in the fold. So my question is what motivated you to join the military in the first place?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think at the end of the day, it was just wanting to give back. So, looking along my youth, right after birth, I was born with a couple birth defects. So I spent like the first 18 months of my life in the hospital, just coming off the incubator, being managed by tubes and needles and all that fun stuff. And understanding, the time and effort that those healthcare providers really put into making sure that I am here right now. Those, public servants that don't really get the credit they deserve. I was like, you know what? If someone can go through that physically and mentally, why can't someone go through that as well, but in different capacity and serve their country? Because clearly, if someone can survive, 18 months of being stuck with needles, prodded, and all that not so fun stuff, what more is this person capable of? They really ask you to, you think about it, test yourself, test your limits. What are you really capable of? You don't know, but if you become complacent, you're never going to know. And so it was just me wanting to do more.
Wow, that's powerful. That shows the layers behind the beast. Because I always saw the scars, but it's not, you know what I mean? Like, it's not PC a lot of times to ask people questions. Obviously, you was my bro, but I'm like, I mean, this dude, he a warrior, so I don't know. He might have gotten a knife fight back in California or something. I don't know. But I've never seen you.
When the tape starts rolling, I'm going to tell you about all the freaking knives I've had to fight against and all the bullet wounds I took. Hey, you got to be PC, so that's the story I'm giving you.
Nah, that's awesome. And, I want the audience to know, like, even through all the trials and tribulations, I never saw this guy with his head down. And that's what kept me fighting through the end. And I was, when I decided to focus on the process instead of the outcome and the result, I was just, forget it. I'm just going to do the best that I can. I still got a Recondo Award, which was crazy because at the time, like, I'm like,
you had to get those monkey bars, baby. I remember that day.
I almost fell off.
I know.
And I'm rolling underneath the.
That was a fun time.
And then the swimming, dog, like I couldn't swim. You feel me? So I'm like, I'm in there doing whatever I need to do to get to that edge.
Oh, the other side.
And it was cold. It was cold. It was freezing cold.
It was not that bad.
Man, it was. You from Cali? You just swim in waves and all that.
Cold water.
What?
Yeah, for real. So my last duty station I spent in Hawaii. I will never go in cold water ever again after being in Hawaii. Ever.
For real? Nobody tells that part about Hawaii.
It was beautiful. The warm water, the warm sand. I was on the beach in Christmas.
Oh, so you saying the water was always warm?
Always
but in
warm.
California,
it's cold as hell. just like the Atlantic.
So you telling me that since I went to Florida, that's, I'm decent. But over in California, I don't need to be going out there just to see the beach.
Yeah, it's like that Doobie water, baby. You go to Hawaii, you can see like 10 feet down, like, oh, okay, there's a little rock and pebble.
That's awesome. So my question is so going through that experience, what kind of kid were you growing up? Like who was 12-year-old Raul Mancera?
Curious George. Just wanting to know. That young sponge, like feeling like he's new to the world and just trying to soak up as much, because what else is there to do as a kid than just have nothing, endless energy and be curious to absorb information, watch the people around you. I love to play baseball. I played baseball throughout my youth. Video games, I wasn't really good, but hey, I give it the good old college try. You know what I mean? It's like adding art history because you need an elective. Who takes art history? Don't tell me you took art history.
Actually, I had to take it in college, unfortunately. Yeah, it was like, take these or take that. I was like, Renaissance art. Take that.
I tried to hold as long as I
thought
could.
It was Rose. I was like,
who takes art history?
I failed it.
Yeah.
No, I think I slid with a D.
Hey, that's passing, right?
It was dusty. That was the dustiest class, bro. It was in an auditorium, massive auditorium, just with the screen. He was talking, in 19, I'm like, that ain't. I remembered it wrong. That's why I got a D. It was like 1800, 1760. Picasso. I don't know.
I don't know. He's from some other part of the
Like, how many times do you run into somebody and like, let me tell you about Renaissance art?
Yeah, that's a true story. True story.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say, I don't know. As a young child, I was just one of those kids that was just full of energy, full of life, untainted to the trials and tribulations that, you see around the world. Sorry, my computer asked me if I wanted to restart it right now for an update.
No, you good, bro.
No, just loving life, man. Just taking what I could and just enjoying every day, because I was ignorant to a lot of things that were going around me, and and that's what developed me later on, is just like looking back and like, oh shit, I didn't know that was going on. Holy man, that was really not fun. Holy shoot.
So you would say you had pretty solid parents that like made it happen for you and kept you actively involved.
I say adults did in general.
Adults did. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Adults around me did. My parents were washy, but I love them to this day. But yeah, a lot of the good and stuff I've learned was just the family around me, just helping.
So just community in general. Okay. Because they say it takes a village. And a lot of times, like, we're not born with perfect parents. Like, I've obviously, I bounced around a lot, stuff like that. But, I value the little things I learn. But, like, a lot of times it's just a collective. You start to figure it out on the way. But I think that makes for a better story when it comes to leadership and how you interact with other people. Because you kind of got to figure it out, right?
Yeah, for sure. You take the best of what you got, and you're like, okay, I want to take this trait, this characteristic. I want to take this humbling, way and attitude from this person, and you build who you want to be from that. It's kind of that plug and play, almost like that bionic person. It's like you have that opportunity to make yourself whoever you want to be, and that's your choice.
No, that's facts. So you went from enlisted to the officer side, right?
I did. Yep.
Green to gold. What made you make that decision? Was it just the pay? I mean, you keep it 100. Like, I'm it's like, I'm tired of taking orders, so I'm gonna go give them, and then you get told orders on the other side too.
Yeah. No, don't get me wrong. The pay was definitely attractive. But I think there was an event back in, I want to say, I don't know, 05, 06. So I joined in 04. 05, I was messing around, still trying to figure out how I was growing into myself, maturing, and I was getting in trouble. I was getting into quite a bit of trouble, to tell you the truth. And so I had a commander that was, you know, a good mentor. I didn't know it at the time, but he was like, hey, see that phone? Call your dad. Tell him what you just did. And I was like, I ain't calling my dad. He's like, I can kick you out of the army now. I'm going to call my dad. I was like, you know, but the fact that he cared to invest time, and then like after I left, you know, that unit, he went up to our battalion headquarters. He was like, hey, I'm bringing you with me. He's like, you're not going to do good here. He's like, people already got a bad impression of, you know, your mishaps and the stuff you've done bad. He's like, come with me and get a second chance. And just watching the type of commander he was, I was like, you know what? I want to be that commander one day that has an opportunity to say, hey, use that sympathy and empathy and, you know, see past, you know, the action and understand the person to give people second chances. And that's what I wanted to do.
Wow. That's powerful. Like, I wouldn't even known that. You know what I'm saying? Like, troubled Mancera, huh? So you just found out a way to positively
child and saw all these things going around behind me, and then common, you know, push come to shove. 12 years later, I was like, oh, I'm getting in trouble as a young adult. Yeah. No, man, I guess I can say in a controlled environment, I was wilding out, you know, wilding out being young, you know, because I guess youth, acknowledging your youth is never fun, you know, so, you know, having fun, seeing what works for you. And I did a lot of that, probably much more than I probably should have.
You don't notice, but I was a horrible kid too, bro.
No.
Like I was a nuisance, like as a child. And then I thought that I got to a point where I knew it all and I could fly straight. And then real life hits you and real problems and issues.
Yep.
And you start bucking the system. Like, it's weird to see, like, but it's beautiful at the same time to see people like us be able to go through it and continue to march through. Like today, I was delivering packages on my route, and I saw, you know, two young ushes. You know what I'm saying? It was a light-skinned dude, you know, light-skinned cat, dark-skinned cat, sitting on.
My life.
I couldn't tell. I think he was part Hispanic, but you never tell. These kids, you know, they everything these days. So I see him just standing at the pole, and this is like a small town, like country hick town too. I'm like, you know, y'all shouldn't be standing at this pole like this, right? Like, y'all probably at least go sit by the lake. You know what I'm saying? Like, it looks like y'all out here trapping, and y'all not. I could see y'all goofing around because I come from the culture, but it was people, you know, having little conversations like that with me that made me. I didn't in the moment. I did the exact same thing they said. I'm waiting for some breezies to come through. I'm waiting for some chicks to slide. You know what I'm saying? She know right here. I'm like, you can't wait in front of the house? Nah. And my real answer would have, well, my mama, I ain't even supposed to be out here. You feel me?
Let me swipe this phone over here.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so it was just different. But it's interesting how we can still transcend that suffering.
Yeah.
And transcend those bad, misguided decisions. And I think that's beautiful that you even had a commander that talked to you, because for me, it was a bunch of commanders and NCOs that had set me straight. Some of them I got on social media today. It's kind of like, man, it's powerful because you're like, this was my first sergeant who became a sergeant major. This guy's retiring. Like, he was yelling at me when I was a specialist. You feel me? Like, enlisted, I was a knucklehead. My first couple drills, you know, when you first get there, especially in a guard unit, it's hard because when you get there, ain't nobody saluting. The guy that's telling you to be at parade rest is like, he's like joking with you because nobody else is doing it. But like, they're trying to like put you in line and like, you know what I'm saying? Like razzle you, like, you ain't gonna stay at parade rest? And I'm like, you know what I'm saying? And then you realize it's not real because the culture, like, there are principles and things that people abide by. However, those are used for discipline. So you get out of basic, you think it's going to be all hoorah. And I have soldiers that reach out to me today, like to this day, they're like, man, I hate it here. I'm depressed. I'm sad. And I'm like, a lot of times you have to wait it out.
Yep.
You have to go through the storm. and rediscipline and find yourself. Because when you find yourself in the military, that's when you start succeeding.
Yeah,
because you don't place all the value in everything else.
And it gives you that understanding, you know, because someone one day is going to look to someone for mentorship, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You never know when it's going to be your day that someone's going to come up to you and ask you questions. And it's one of those, you know, things that you hold on to and you can be able to apply it one day. But it takes a special kind of person to understand that and not like you said, put your head down. You just have to get an understanding like, hey, things on the surface aren't what they seem to be.
No.
But let me take this and learn from it, write it down, and recollect at a later time. And maybe I might be that one, like you said, sitting there watching these two kids just looking all hoodlum and shit and go give them a piece of advice. Mm-hmm. Or that person at that drill that says, hey, man, come here. You okay? Let me tell you about my first 90 days. You know, it's those shared experiences and that opportunity that, you know, if there's a target of opportunity to capitalize it, because, you know, that's what we should be doing now as an older generation. It's like providing that feedback to, you know, the youngers, because some of the social media, the platforms they have now, you know, people are afraid to build their intrapersonal communication skills.
Mm-hmm. So, and it's negative. Every turn, like, it's like people, it's weird how as a country, we would wait till 5 o'clock to watch negative news.
Yeah.
It's rarely ever anything positive on the news. We're sitting in front of a phone and it becomes less interpersonal. Every day I have to fight to like interact with people and smile and say hello and embody, you know what I'm saying, the young cadet Mancera. Because every time I'm like, how can you turn this interaction into something positive? Because a lot of people already perceive you as a threatening person without even knowing you. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's probably if you wore a medium shirt at work, and you know,
probably, you know what I'm saying?
Shirt and like, no room for anything else up here.
You know, it's funny because when I wear my shirt, my stomach don't stick out. So when you see the little, you know what I'm saying, that little wave in there, you know what I'm saying? Come on, Cap. You better get with it. Right, you better start riding them bikes, fam.
Hey.
Hey, you old, Cap, though, man. You about to retire and everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, are you retirement age yet? What did you doing?
I'm at 17 later on this year.
What's that like? Because okay, so
Too soon to tell. How about that?
But keep it 100 with me. Like, what are some of the things that go through your mind when you talk about retirement? Because I see a lot of people, whether it's military or else, they forget that they need to reduce their lifestyle. Like I'm seeing people that are on the cusp and they just got their retirement letter, and like they buy new houses, like they buying brand new lawnmowers, like they buying brand new cars and whips, and I'm like, you realize your calculation of your retirement is not going to be the same.
That's just people being misguided. No, it's actually quite enlightening. So, knowing that I'm close to retirement, and so let me tell you a story. So knowing that I can retire as a captain, I've used it to my advantage many times.
Okay.
I've thrown ultimatums out there to my colonels. My lieutenant colonels like, hey, it's either this or that, man. And because I know I have that in my back pocket. Is that malicious of me? Probably. Clearly, I knew I had hidden agendas.
Savage.
You know, if you don't do for yourself, who's going to do for you?
Well, that's powerful, because somebody was telling me, they were talking about basketball, and they were like, somebody once told them, don't let basketball use you. You use basketball. And it's powerful that you said that, because as veterans, as troops out here, it's hard. So you need to be using your career that you put the work into this career. You put down flesh, bone, body, knees, everything, back, all that. You have to use it for you. Use all the resources you can to make sure that you set yourself up for success in the troops. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people, they go down the tunnel and they just keep going. They never wake up.
It's they don't, and it's saddening sometimes. It's saddening, the process and the institutionalization that we go through as soldiers. You know, and that was a problem that, you know, friends of mine and I saw, you know, a while back for a lot of our enlisted friends. They habitually get used to being in a routine in a rhythm where everything was this and that. And as you start growing and maturing in the military, it was doing what you're told to do, doing what you're told to do, learning to tell people what to do, doing what you're told to do, and telling people what to do. Same, and as you grow further, you're just telling people what to do. And at some point, when you become sergeant major, you're not really telling people what to do. You're just helping people get to where they need to go, helping mentor them. So it's that cycle, the cyclic cycle, that you try to understand that at one day this is not going to be your life. And I think it's just key that we communicate to as many people as we can about how to break the perpetual cycle of people getting out of the military or people staying in the military and not doing for themselves and not utilizing the tools they've given, understanding the experiences and resources they've learned and have at their tool set inside to their advantage.
And that's the other thing is in that transition, there's a new mission behind it, but you have to go and own it. That's the hardest part, is like you have to take the initiative to find your new mission every day, because those same principles are super helpful. Like you can go and apply these same principles, but it's just going to be different, and it's hard breaking people, because I was in a veterans fraternity in college, and a lot of cats, like you look at them after career, going to the same bars, having the same drinks, same conversations. Like it got to a point where I kind of had to pull away, and just as much as
nothing changed.
Nothing. And they don't change, and they refuse to,
because they're comfortable, and complacency kills sometimes, and not just in its most literal form.
And then they go to these civilians who are like, come here, poor soldier, come here, let me wipe it away. Like I literally, I don't know how to have a conversation. It's hard, because she was like, well, how can we help veterans? And my conversation was, it's help them help themselves. Help them take charge of the opportunities they have out here. And the problem with the military is a lot of times, a lot of us join as knuckleheads, and we stay knuckleheads all the way through. And we're running from pain. We're running from hurt. We're running from heartache. We're running from trauma. Like I know myself, like when I joined the military, it was like, okay, I'm about to enlist, and because I want to get away, I need something different. But I was still carrying that baggage and that trauma. And, every day and through years of counseling and stuff like that, like I've started to own that and love me more. And once you love you, you start looking out for you. That's one of the hardest parts in the military, is like, they're like, what about we and us? And I'm like, there's a time and a place for we and us. And there's a time and a place for you. And even going down that rabbit hole as an officer, you have to, a lot of times they're like, oh, well, they're not with us over here and yada, yada, yada. But then you get too much into the tea and they're like, oh, officers over here, NCOs over here, like that's a weird, you know what I mean? Like, oh, so you're saying that you do want us to interact. You need stuff now. Yet I asked you to do something simple, and all I got was rah, rah, rah. And it a lot of times it doesn't even matter if you, the likable officer or the non-likable officer, you getting kickback from every other place. Like I can't imagine working with a whole bunch of warrant officers and a bunch of other captains underneath you. Like, well, we about to do this, because every platoon is like, I've got a captain too. My captain against your captain, and I'm like, like I had, like no, and I had to talk to my troops, and I'm like, hey, bro, chill. I'm just platoon leader. I'm not just like, when we on mission and I got to get something done, I'm talking to another person. Oh yeah, I'm wielding that staff with, you know what I'm saying, for my troops all day, every day. Like, well, we need this. And trying to get billeting over in Kuwait, like when we was doing missions in Iraq, it was like, okay, Lieutenant, well, let me check my list and da, 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 da. So then I get promoted, and then I go in there, oh, Captain, okay, You need your own billet here, and
okay,
how many you need? How many you need? Let me go scroll down the list.
Yep.
And that's a powerful moment because it also makes you realize, like, now I have the ability to actually fight for the troops the way that I wanted to when I was just a lieutenant that was a platoon leader.
Yeah, it's powerful.
It's weird, and it's scary too, because I scared some troops. You know what I'm saying? One time, because you transition, you're like, oh, well, the captain said this to me, and I'm like, no, I just said you should have given the key to somebody responsible. That was the principal. But troops at that level, they don't look at the principal. People on social media, they don't look at the principal. They're like, I'm in my feelings right now. This is how I feel. So this is how I was treated.
Great mentor in ROTC told me one day, our biggest problem as thinkers, as critical thinkers, is applying no self-constraint to the application of principle. Bottom line, we don't live in this metaphorical box. We put our thinking in that box, but not thinking of just the principle aspect of what is the real intent or what is the principal thing that needs to be done.
Well, it's interesting. Once you start thinking about the principle behind it, so many things change for you. The way I interact with human beings in general, I'm like, what is the goal here? And when you can get to that place as a person, you're like, what is the goal? Am I accomplishing this goal? Is this deterring away from what that principle is? What really matters at the bottom level? I think you start to think a lot clearer, but it's also important to detach. Like, as commanders, like, I don't know, have you ever went through a period where you were like, you went too far, like down, like you was too in it, where you couldn't see a situation that was actually happening, like an unfolding?
Yeah, so I'll probably hold this for a separate conversation when you and I are on the phone, but yeah, I did. I went to one where, I went up against my own internal company leadership. Like, I fought against them because there was something I didn't believe. And I put a lot of time and energy into it. And at the end of the day, I guess just from my perspective, I think it turned out well, but it could have went bad because I spent so much time and effort just fighting a cause, a misconception, a belief versus a person. And that's when, at the end of the day, when I came out of that whole situation, that's when I put my foot down and said, hey, one standard, one expectation. We're all a team. All the other preconceived notions from other units you've been in, other mentors you've had, don't mean nothing. It doesn't. What matters today is how you
right now
do your job today and how you take care of those soldiers to your left and right. Because those guys do the work that you're responsible and charged with mentoring them.
That's real, because you get people from all over the place, man. You got the, you know what I'm saying, the different schools and the tabs on you and all that stuff, and they bring that moxie to here and now. And I'm like, it's really not applicable. I've had to have, conversations with NCOs that they're retiring, but we on deployment. I'm like, I need you to do the job. I need you to do this right now. I don't need the bias that you brought here. I don't care how you feel about a situation or sharp or whatever. We need to execute on that situation, that scenario. I don't care how you feel about the soldier or whatever, or that soldier was cool, so we no, look at the facts and treat both soldiers fairly.
Yeah,
that's what we need to do. I had to go at it with a first sergeant as a platoon leader, and I made captain, so they tried to use it against me. He's like, so what do you want me to do, Captain Hamilton?
The same thing I want to do.
I want you to do your job.
Yeah.
Like, this is at your level now. I need you to handle this today. Please execute. Please. Because we all gonna get relieved if you don't execute on this right now. Because you're literally telling me that you're refusing to handle the problem. Once you take it out of my wheelhouse and you try to own this situation without talking to me about it first, because I know my troops.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And not trusting me, now we got an issue. Now it's in your wheelhouse. And I've got, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was ready. I was ready to go in, bro. Because I'm like, we had this conversation. I need you to execute. You want to embody sharp. You're going to put that on your resume and all those things. I need you to step for these soldiers. And then here's the other hard part was also stepping for the soldier who might have, did whatever happened. You still have to be there for that person.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that's still a person. People don't see that side of command because it's easy to point the finger and hammer the person without being there for the actual human being.
Yeah,
I had to explain to him, like,
their name, and we know them by their DOD ID number, and we see them by their rank. But you're right, it's that human aspect, you know, and people fail to understand sometimes that total soldier concept is a real thing. I got it, they're moving away from it, but it's a real thing because you don't know the background of someone's story that kind of led to the action in which they took. But if you kind of peel back the onion, principle stuff, you know, you get to understand why they did it, and then you can help get them to a better place, and then it's going to
get them help or get them out. But the way there is talking to the human being and being like, this is it. We need you to say, you know what I'm saying? Like, hey, and as commanders, a lot of people forget, like, our job is to be unbiased, get the story all around, both sides, all of it. And then, you know what I'm saying? And then let the system handle whatever it is. But so many people throw their egos in and it's like, oh yeah, that person needs to go over there and be over there. And I'm like, if that soldier walks out there and kills themselves, their blood is on your hand.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we need to figure this out and treat this person like a human being. Like, even on, you know, NCOERs and documentations, it's fair. With me, it's like across the board, because I know what it's like being a minority and then being looked at, you know what I'm saying, in a different way. So whether they're a minority or a majority, I'm like, fair is fair. Give them their due justice. And right now we're in a place of cancel culture that gets very, very toxic. It's like, oh, yeah, cancel them. And I'm like, if you look in everybody's closet, there's something on everybody. So, dog, when you wield that sword, you better be ready to slice yourself up too, because that's gonna be sharp on both ends. That's a sharp handle.
Yeah, great power comes great
responsibility. Well, and when you cancel something, you don't solve the problem.
No.
Like you said, total person, right? Total soldier. When you cancel them, you don't unpeel, you don't fix the problem. Because guess what? That person has talked to another person, and that person has talked to another person. So if we don't get to the root of the problem and actually have, hey, you know what? You messed up, but I'm going to apply a little bit of grace here and understanding. We need to fix this. How do we fix this? And a lot of issues, even in this country, you have a lot of people that get canceled, right? And you know those canceled people have to go somewhere, right? They go around other canceled people, and they create cults on the inside. And that's how you get uprisings. Because you're not addressing the issues. You're just throwing a mass blanket over everything and saying all those people are bad. But we were all young once. And so that grace is extremely important. I appreciate you coming on, man. Like, it's really weird. We kind of got a little deep, went down a rabbit hole a little here.
You know, it happens. Don't worry about it.
So my question is if you could say something to 12-year-old you, what advice would you give that individual?
Don't change. Be you, because you know, at the end of the day, you know, you have the Lord on your back, on your side, and you know He's going to guide you where you need to go.
Okay. All right, man, bro. I appreciate you coming on the podcast. It's been real chopping it up. You've been a real pivotal person in my life. I want to say thank you for being there for me when nobody else would be there for me, and showing me grace and helping me push through. And even though I didn't get the result that I had, I grew along the way and became a better man. So I appreciate you, dog.
Yeah,
ladies and gentlemen, Raul Mancera.